My name's Pry. You can find me on Twitter at jpry. I work for WPN. Some of you may have heard of it. Yeah, put the description of free beers.
My name's Liam Dempsey. I've got a small consultancy called LB Design. I work locally in Philly. I've got an office in London. My contact details are on the site. And I am also the co-organizer of the Philly WordPress meetup. So if you don't live in Philadelphia and you live in the greater reaches of mostly Chester, but a little bit of Montgomery County, check us out on meetup.com. So we're going to start with a few takeaways here. And really what we want you guys to get out of this is to realize and really accept more than realize. Accept, commit yourself to that version control is not an option. Breathing is not an option. If you're doing work with WordPress, if you're making themes, if you're writing plugins, if you're editing things, even as a designer, you really got to do version control. Making version control work for you isn't that hard. It sounds daunting, it sounds confusing. You see a couple diagrams on the internet and you say, oh, that's just crazy. I can't do that. I'm a designer. But it's not that confusing. It's really not. If you start simply, yes, you can get hugely complicated. But if you think paper airplane, that flies. Now you can have a rocket ship go to the moon and that also flies. But you can start with a paper airplane and get your head around flight. Same thing with what we're going to do today. No rocket ships, paper airplanes. And really, what we're going to get into is, sorry, I keep sitting in front of you, Jane, we're going to talk a little bit now, I can't read that. Now we're going to talk about how to use version control in your own workflow. As a designer, that was one of the things that I really struggled with, is how do I actually make this work for me without having to reinvent everything I know about building themes, creating websites, getting them on the development server, on the production server. How do I do that without having to start from scratch or taking down the internet? So that's what we're going to try to get to today. So some initial thoughts on this is when you leave this room, you will be no closer to being an expert at anything than what you came in being an expert at. This is really to get you started, take away the fear, jump into it, and have fun with it and start to make it your own. But we've got 30 minutes, maybe 35, if no one has any questions, so we're not going to make anything happen. Version control as a concept is very, very simple. It's just kind of like an advanced save as. That's all it is. How you use it, how it gets implemented, gets a bit more complicated. But just the idea of version control is it's doing a save as. So instead of version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4, it's all just one file. And your version control system, in our case Git, does that all for you. So you will only see one file, but there are versions of it stored. So it's a really, really simple concept. It's the workflow that gets challenging, and that's what we're going to get to today. So, and that's kind of the last point, is the workflow is what we want to get to today. Okay. Okay. They said, here's the caveat. You will not leave this, and if you do, we deserve a raise. Up our ice cream. We've got a whole bunch of resources at the end of this. We won't actually cover that slide, but that slide is in this presentation. The slide will be available. We'll tweet it out as soon as we wrap up here. Be on SlideShare at some point today, provided the Wi-Fi holds, or tether off your phone, or off somebody's phone. Okay, so why are we doing version control? I said earlier that it wasn't an option. Well, why not? Well, there's safety. And there's safety. And then there's safety. And there's actually a bit of functionality, too. So let's get into that. What's our first safety? You made a change to whatever you were working on. You thought you liked it, you hit save, you close the program, you grab yourself a soda or a tea or a coffee, and you come back and say, oh crap, I don't really like that. So, Control-Z, Command-Z, that's not going to do anything for you. Version control can. Version control can roll it back in a way that you're not going to get if you don't use it. Another safety concern is your client thought they had a backup of the site gets hacked, you realize you just have a fake beard, You don't have a real beard, you don't have a backup. Version control can help you with that. It's on GitHub, it's on some other system where you're using backup, and you're protected there. Your client calls you up, oh, I don't have a copy. Don't worry about it, you have a copy. Work with that. And the third version, third safety issue is when you might have failed to test a certain aspect in a browser. Maybe you only were using Firefox extensions in your CSS and it doesn't work right in Safari. You can roll back very quickly, add your extensions, make your changes, and then move forward again. So it's a really nice, clean, easy way to be safe when you need to back up. We do some swearing around the office. And if you work from home and occasionally your kids there, that's not a bad thing to produce. So the functionality side of it is what happens when your business starts to grow and you're taking on more projects and you're starting to work with other people. And whether or not it's another designer or it's a developer, you want to do some more advanced builds in WordPress, you don't want to do it yourself, you want to bring somebody else like Jeremy in. That's what GitHub can do. It allows you to share code in a very safe, very functional way that there's options for everybody to make sure that nothing gets overwritten and everything gets saved in a clean and clear-cut way. Are you with me so far? Yeah. So what are our version control tools? What are we using that in our office? What are we going to see on our computer? Well, we're going to have a GitHub account. I should just stop for a second and say there are other options. Bitbucket is another place. There are different services that will do version control for you. There are definitely some wrong ways to do version control, but there's a lot of different right ways. So we're just going to throw out one way. It's a simple way, it's a clean way. But obviously it might be a little bit different or varied for you and your setup. So if what we're saying is, I don't work with my office, that's okay. That's fine. You can do that. Just tailor it to what you need. So we're just going to offer one option here. Place to start again, taking away that fear. So, unless you know command line, who knows command line? Okay, for everyone else, myself included, we use a GitHub app. Again, there are other apps that you can use, but GitHub has its own app. It's very clean, very simple to use. You cannot take that on the internet using the GitHub app. At least I haven't managed to do it yet.
Just to interrupt you for a second, with the GitHub app, you don't have to use it with GitHub. It's actually just a standalone app. It can work just fine on your local machine. You don't actually have to use GitHub with it. You can do other local repositories. Just a side note there.
Yeah. And building on that point, you can actually push things to Bitbucket too. So yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes. You just change where the location of your repository. You need some kind of text editor, right? If you're changing your CSS, if you're editing your themes. I use Sublime Text too, but certainly there are other ones out there. Well, that first item, I don't think I mentioned, that's just MAMP, so running a local development environment. Sorry, Gene. The third is I use Transmit for FTP, SFTP. Clearly there's other options, but it's a way to, unless you're with WP Engine, you can push your code there. Maybe you're with Bluehost or DreamHost or InMotion. I don't know if they do Git push or not, but if you're at some of the hosts that sponsor today's WordPress meetup, WordCamp, you're going to need some sort of FTP program. And then, over time, when you grow in confidence and skill, you use a terminal and command line stuff. I'm starting to get that. I haven't broken anything yet. Go ahead. Okay, good question. So the question is GitHub free? And the answer is yes and no. You have a certain number of unlimited open repositories, so that means anybody can see them. But if you want to have them private, so maybe it's a project that your client doesn't want public or you don't want public, then you have to pay. I think it's $12 a month for 5 repositories, and then some sort of sliding scale. Bitbucket is free for unlimited private repositories, but as you get more advanced uses of Git, then, as I understand it, and I'm not a hugely advanced user of Git, for that matter, that Bitbucket is a bit more limited, GitHub is a little bit more powerful. So, between the two, So that was kind of a very quick overview of kind of the tools and what we're going to get into. But really what we're going to start to talk about, and I think this is good now. So I'm going to turn this over to Jeremy.
All right. So we're going to talk about kind of getting into how does this actually, why does this matter to you, and how can you actually utilize what we're going to talk about. And so we're just going to talk about a couple of different scenarios. So you might be just a single designer or a single developer, like you're just working on your own projects, you don't necessarily work with other people, just you. There's also going to be a small team of people, maybe like 5 or 6 people or so. And then what we're not really going to cover is going to be like a large group of people. You know, it could be a dozen, it could be 2 dozen, it could be 100 people all working on the same kind of project. So we're not going to get to there. However, some of the concepts that we're going to talk about do carry over through every single one of these scenarios. So we're just kind of going to lay a foundation that you can determine, okay, what's going to suit your needs best. So what we're gonna do here is just a general overview, like I said, that applies to all these scenarios of how your workflow might work. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do, we're talking about utilizing GitHub. So you create a repository, or create an account, up on GitHub.com. Then you can actually go and make a repository and pull it down to your local computer. You can go and do your changes, whether it's with your favorite text editor, if you're one of those advanced people who like command line text editing, go right ahead. However you want to do it, no problem. You commit your changes and you push those back up to GitHub. And for those of you, I see a lot of people like trying to copy these down really fast. Yeah, again, we're going to kind of go cover these a little bit more in depth. So sorry if you don't catch all these right away. And then once you synchronize with GitHub, you can also push up to your server, whether it's with FTP or SFTP, or in some cases you might be able to use Git to push to the development server. And then also the same thing, push to your live production server, your live web host. All right, what do we do now? What is the actual workflow now that we flew through all those things? So on one side, you kind of think of Git in general when you're working with multiple locations. So you have your own computer, you have GitHub. Each of these can create a copy of your code. Now, your code could be a bunch of HTML files, it could be your CSS, it could be in WordPress, you have themes and plugins. So whatever grouping you want to use. So maybe you're working on a theme, so that includes all your template files, your CSS files, everything else. That might be one repository. All right, so when we talk about repositories, it's just one grouping of code. Does that make sense to everyone? No. Let's see more heads on. So the first thing you do is you basically you start on GitHub, you pull a copy down to your local computer, and then on your local computer you do all the things that you normally do. I'm sure everyone here is working on your own local computer. You make changes. You update your style sheets, you update your templates, everything you're doing. Once you're done, you push those changes back up to GitHub. So now, as Leah mentioned, where we want to be concerned with safety and backups, now there's a copy of your code somewhere else that if your local computer was destroyed, guess what? You can always go back to GitHub and retrieve your copy, and it's like nothing was ever lost. So that's one benefit of using GitHub is that you have another copy. Yes?
So do you upload all your, you have a bunch of files you want to GitHub, you upload all of them first?
Yeah, so what he asked is whether you would upload a bunch of files first and then synchronize it. So the way that it works is on GitHub, when you create a repository, they give you just an empty shell. And they tell you, okay, go on your computer and set this up. Fill in all your files and synchronize it back again. So in a sense, yes, you can start from scratch, or you can set up something that you're already working on, a project that you're already in the middle of. It doesn't matter. You can start from at any level of process. It could be something that you completed for a client last week and you want to just have a copy of it somewhere else. You can do that this way. So once you have that, now that you have your backup, now that it's saved. Now you can start pushing those changes to other locations. To your production server, to your development server. And so this is kind of just the single user. This is what you're going to be doing as a single person working on a project. It's just you. You just you make the changes, synchronize it. Make the changes, synchronize it. That's really all we're talking about here. So from here, yes.
All right, so pushing from the from GitHub, make the building and came back to GitHub. Let's say that point I want to see what I want to see the file because it's WordPress. WordPress is essentially on GitHub.
Right.
Is there a public a web accessible version that goes through so it looks like?
Yes. Yeah. So his question was, once your files are up on GitHub, is there a web accessible version you can go so it look like?
You didn't mean like see how it presents at the front end of the browser. You mean you want to look at the code.
That and it presents the browser.
Okay. So yes and no in that case. So you're not going to be able to run WordPress from GitHub and see it presented the way that WordPress would run your code generator. However, you can view the files as code the same way that you would view them on your computer. In fact, you can actually edit files that you have edit rights to on GitHub directly if you want to. Just as a personal note, so when I do projects, a lot of the stuff that I work on personally is just me. I'm not working with anyone else. And so I actually have multiple computers. I have a laptop that I carry around, and I have a desktop at home. Right? So even just utilizing GitHub, I have a way to easily keep the exact same code synchronized between those two computers. So with basically no extra work. Once you start putting version control into your workflow, you don't have any extra steps to duplicate all of your existing code onto another computer. Yes?
So essentially, every time you send something back to push your changes back to GitHub, it saves it as a separate file. So if I made 5 sets of changes, there should be 5 sets of changes on GitHub, so I don't know number 5, go back to 3. Is that what you're telling me? Is that why it's good? Is it because it's saying as or rename it?
So you see what I understand. So your question is, once you make, say, 5 changes, are there now 5 files up on GitHub?
Let's say I made 5 different sets, so I sent 1, I sent 2, and
Right.
different times I sent. Does it save each one separately, so I can go back if I want to go back in time?
Yeah, and so I guess we could back up.
Is that the benefit?
Right, yes, that is a benefit of it. So technically speaking, the way that GitHub works, you initially save all your files, and when you make changes, the way that Git functions, Git is the name of the version control system, GitHub is where you can store it. The way that Git functions is it saves what you changed from version to version. So you have your initial file, and instead of resaving the whole file, it says you changed codes lines 8, 9, and 10. This is what it was before, this is what it was after.
That's my point.
And so it's efficient. Yes.
So I don't have to save as.
Correct. You don't have to
rename
save
it or
as.
something like that.
Exactly. So and so that history of I made this change to lines 8, 9, and 10. The next day I made changes to lines 20, 21, and 22, and so on and so forth. That history of what changes you made is maintained by Git, and that's what we mean by version control. Each point in time, you could say, is a version of that file. And so we have a whole history of what you've done to that file. Did that answer your question?
Very much.
Okay. But just one more for now, and then we'll keep moving. Yes?
But Git doesn't store deltas like other version control systems. It stores the whole file multiple times.
No, it stores deltas.
No, it does not.
But
It does actually, but I can talk to you later.
okay, we'll talk about that later. My understanding was that it does.
Or that word Git in general.
Git in general. GitHub is just an implementation of Git.
GitHub doesn't sort out this. We get that.
Do you say Git or GitHub?
Git doesn't store deltas. Other things like Polygon version control system stores deltas. Microsoft products store deltas. Git flat out doesn't.
We can catch up after this.
Yeah.
I think that's more of a discussion. Because maybe I'm misunderstanding, or maybe one of us is misunderstanding. That's okay. But so we're just going to talk about
It's
more.
the same net result though.
result.
Yeah, it's the same end result, and that's what we're really talking about right now, is we want to help you to implement version control so that you get all the benefits of it. All right, so now for a small team, it's very similar to how it works with a single user. And I should say that what I'm going to show here is, again, just one version. There are multiple things that you can do to set up how you're going to actually handle your code base. And I want to emphasize the fact that there's no one right way. Just like Liam said, there's multiple ways that you can do this, and it's really, you need to decide, and your team needs to decide what's going to work best for you, what makes the most sense to you. So probably one of the more common ways is you still have one Git repository, and every individual person will pull down updates, pull down some updates, pull down the initial copy of the repository, and then push them back up again. And so the reason that we say updates is, let's say that this top person, they go and make a bunch of changes today, and then they push their changes back up to GitHub. Well, that second person, if they're going to work on it tomorrow, at one point, whether it's before they start working or after, and that's the nice thing about Git, is Git doesn't care when you synchronize, as long as you do at some point. You'll need to pull down those changes to your own local machine that the first person needs. Does that make sense? Everyone with me? Okay. So that's what I mean by synchronizing and pulling down updates, pushing commits or other updates. And then from here, it could be that any one of these three people have the ability to push up to the production server or to the development server. Another model might be that maybe there's one person who's designated that task of actually updating either the development server or the production server or something like that. But again, just that's something that you and your team will have to decide what's right for us. How do we want to make this work for us? Yes?
Do you have other pushback to the development server?
No.
So you can't work halfway there on the development server and have to do work for it?
No. So his question was, can GitHub push to the development server itself? In other words, an arrow coming down from GitHub to the development server? No.
So you come back to us and that
Right. So it's the nature of how Git how Git functions is that where you are, whatever machine you're working off of is kind of the hub. You can push those changes to different places.
Strangely, they're called.
Yeah, they are called GitHub. But all right.
that's true. We should go about that.
So now, yes, one question back.
So does it have a concept of builds, meaning that, when you can pull it to the production server, it's just using version 2 of this file, version 1 of this file, so you can recreate that?
So his question, if you couldn't hear, was do you have the concept of builds? There are specific versions of specific files. In a sense, yes. And that's something we'll provide resources at the end. Some of those will have more advanced topics. In your case, what you would be talking about is called tagging. So if you want to make a note of that, and that's what you need to investigate. Tagging is what you want to look at. So we're going to talk about trees, and the reason we talk about trees is because the way that your repository flows is almost like a tree, where you have your main trunk, and then you can have different branches that come off. And so with we might have a single person working on a project is oftentimes going to just have a single branch. Just one tall straight tree. In other words, whenever you make a change, it's all just linear. You don't have multiple things going on side by side at the same time. If that's confusing, bear with me. We'll kind of keep going and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense. And then there's going to be multiple branch where you have one stable version of your code, and maybe off to the side, it's kind of your development version that you're working on tweaking. So let's say you're working on a customer site, maybe they already have a live version, and you don't want to impact that. Let's say you make a new branch, it's off to the side, it doesn't affect the main trunk. And you can make all your changes and make new commits, and then once you're ready, then you can bring it back in. And so what that's going to look like, you can see over on the far left here, we have the master branch. So you can think of that as like your authoritative copy. each one of these circles represents an individual point called a commit, an individual point in history where you say, okay, I've made XYZ change, and I say, this is a point in history, I'm going to save it. So that's what every one of those is. So you can have, you can see there's a development branch in the middle that comes off, and it is separate until you're ready for it to become part of the master branch again. So it actually separates off and is entirely a separate copy of your files, your repository.
We just interject just for a second, kind of in a practical sense of that. If our master branch, say, is our CSS file, and our client calls us up one afternoon and says, hey, I want these 18 changes. Now, we know our client, and we know they change their mind about every 3 days, but they want to see the changes. So we do a branch. We say, we know we're coming back to what's on the site now, because it's the way our client works, but we want to do this other one. So we make this branch of our CSS and say, okay, call it whatever we want, but it's going to be the CSS, and then we're going to affect those changes that the client wants. Then we can merge them back as and when we need. So that's kind of where kind of a practical explanation of how that might work.
So
Yes.
in terms of workflow, you have a local environment set up, or you're doing your work, the client calls and says, I want 17 changes. That's where you make the branch, right? First you do a commit of your existing environment, and then the client, you make changes for the client, and then when they want to roll it back, like you just do a pull and pull that back in, and then FTP that back up to the live site.
Yeah, so in this case, kind of we're kind of go with the example of what Liam said with maybe you have a CSS file and they want to, and maybe they want to change the main color of the site from a nice blue to a lovely neon green. And they say, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to love this. We know that they don't want neon green. Anyway, so when you make a branch, right, you're leaving intact your original copy. And so once you make a new branch, switching between those is as easy as saying, basically telling whether you're using an app or whether you're using the terminal, just saying, okay, switch back to my master branch. And so the files, your actual files on disk stay exactly the same as far as what you see, but the changes within them change based on what branch you switch to. So you can go and make all your changes and use your SFTP program to send them up. And if oh no, what were we thinking with that neon green? You switch it back. You can say, okay, switch back to master and synchronize it again.
Awesome.
Just like that, yes.
But here's a question. So you can't put WordPress up there. But you host CSS and Git and refer to it in WordPress to the Git.
Technically you could.
I would recommend, but I'm saying the temporary.
For temporary.
The green color, you change the link the rel to the Git. It's humor then. And I just remember to change it back.
If you wanted to, you could, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Why?
The reason is, because the whole point of this is really that you're still working in your normal way. In other words, you still have files that you synchronize. And so, instead of taking 2 steps to make a change, not only changing the CSS, but also changing the link to it, you're kind of making extra work for yourself. It's still simple as goes back. You can, but at that point, it's just an extra step that's not really needed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else before we go on? Alright. So here, a little slightly more complicated. And this is, I'm going to do my best to explain this, and so hopefully it makes sense. So this is actually the way that I personally work. So I maintain, on the left here, I have what we call my master branch, right? And that's the version that has all of the production code that's running. It's not broken. It looks how I want it. All that. Then I have my development branch, where any new changes that I'm working on, that's where they go. Now, if there is a whole set of changes that I know are maybe they're going to take a while, maybe I have some iterations, some testing to do, I might actually make another branch. Here I have it labeled featured 1, but maybe it could be, neon green feature. Branches can be named whatever you want. But, so I say, okay, I'm going to take this over here and work on it for a while. All right? Now, so my master branch and my main development branch are both in their same working condition as before. And as I work and refine the code that I'm working on, once I make the determination, okay, I'm ready to actually take this back in, I bring it back into my development branch. And now in this illustration, I have it at the same time, but it could be it could be later on, it could be earlier on. I can then bring the development branch back to my master branch once I'm confident that it's not broken, it's working how I want, so on and so forth. But another illustration is, let's say I have some other feature that I want to be working on at the same time. I can actually be working on two separate things in two separate branches and not have them collide and be all mixed up. And each one has, okay, I made XYZ change here, and it's not interfering with XYZ change here. So you don't have to, you can separate what changes you're working on at any one time. Does that make sense? Yes.
How hard is it to keep track of all these different, is the GitHub app make it easy for you to
It does.
figure out where you are in the process?
Yes. So her question you couldn't hear was, how hard is it to keep track of what you're working on and how things are going? It is very easy, especially once you kind of wrap your head around how this works. And I say that, and it does take a little, if you're not used to the concept, it does take a little bit of a mindset adjustment to kind of realize how things work. But actually, one good comparison, has anyone used Mac and familiar with their time machine function for backups? So Git is basically like time machine. You know how you can go back and view your history of all your files? It's the same kind of thing. And with the exception of, you can say, I'm deliberately making extra copies at certain points for certain functionality. So it's really not too challenging to really keep track of everything. And Git has tools to help you figure out, what's where, and what's going on. So, yes.
Is there a large text field you can fill in to identify what each branch is doing along the lines? Or do you have to go inside your code and look at your comments to see what's actually happening there?
So his question was, is there some kind of field, or text field of some sort that allows you to look and see what a branch is for, or do you just have to rely on your code? And in a sense, it's almost some of both. When you name, you can, as I mentioned before, you can name your branches anything you want. So what you would want to do is name it something that's meaningful so you know what it's working on. And then once that branch is active, you can see a history of what's been done. And every time that like I said, these little circles are representing an individual save point, an individual version. Every time you make one of these individual versions in Git, every point is called a commit. So every time you make a commit, you get to add text that explains what you did. And if you're working with a team, then you probably develop standards of what that text should say, how it should be formatted, and so on. But just working by yourself, just make it something that is meaningful, and just says what you did. So you don't have to look through all the files to see what everything is. You can say, oh yeah, I remember I made that change, and it's a description of what you did. So yes, and far back.
And you can export it out and go back to any commit point in any column that you want, basically?
Yes. Yes, you can. His question was, you can export or revert to any commit at any time? Yes. And yes.
And apology, I came in a little late, so I apologize if you went over this, but do you have a prevailing philosophy for when you link commit?
For when to commit?
Yeah, do you have one personally?
That's a good question, actually. So if you could hear, the question was, is there a prevailing philosophy or standard of when you would actually make a commit, like when you would make a save point? In a sense that there probably are some out there. Me personally, I would say that it's up to you. When I make changes and I make commits, it depends on what I'm working on. I might have a commit that I just made one change to one line of code. I might have a commit where I added an entirely new file and it's 100 lines of code. you know, and from those to everything in between. And so, you know, your commits should basically be, if you needed to go back and undo something, what makes the most sense for you to undo at any one time? Think of it that way. If you needed to undo some kind of a change, what makes the most sense to undo? And that's how, what's that?
I think it's messy to overcommit. I feel like I overcommit.
It's not necessarily. You'd be better off overcommitting than undercommitting. So that's what I would say to that. So, any other questions on that? Yes. So her question was, for the merges, do they happen in Git or when you download the file? And the answer is, a merge is a special operation in Git where you tell it, okay, I have these two branches and bring over anything that's different from, you know, in this case, the development branch into the master branch. Yes, that's another topic. That's a more complicated topic. You can, but that's more complicated topic because it depends on how you do it. So we're getting ahead of ourselves. Any other questions before we keep going? Yes.
I missed the beginning, but did you show what this looks like inside a Git viewer, like Tower?
We did not. We just had that's a little bit outside of what we're talking about because we're mostly just talking about kind of the mindset of how does this impact your workflow. How are you making it work for you? So, but we do have resources later on at the end that will provide to have everything that you need to know how to get started and how to do all the advanced stuff that you don't know how to do. So, yes.
Does it matter where, so on your local machine, change folder names, does that have any impact on Git?
So his question was, you know, on your local machine, if you change folder names, does that have any impact on Git? And I'd say yes and no. And so, and there's a reason. And sometimes. And sometimes, yeah. So, not to make it more complicated, but that kind of depends on what folder you're talking about. For example, you know, let's say I'm making my awesome child theme, or just my awesome theme, and that theme is my Git repository. Well, if I change the name of the theme folder, that does not impact Git. However, if I have a subfolder inside of there that changes, that does, and that would need to be saved as a commit for Git to recognize the difference.
And the other point is, if you're using the GitHub app, you reference where your local repositories are saved. Okay. So if you move it or you change it, that app's going to say, hey, I don't know where that is anymore.
Right.
So you have to update that. So you can do it, and it doesn't affect what's in that folder. All you would have to do is use the app to say, hey, there's one over here now. Or I renamed it. Oh, okay, cool. Broad.
Some refinement.
We go back to that last slide, please. This is my mistake here. The master repository and dev repository, those should say master branch and dev branch. I'll fix it before we put it up on the change the other slides already now.
Yeah.
So those are not two repositories. It's one repository, two branches within it.
Good catch. Yeah. Sorry if that was confusing. Let's see. So now, getting started. Like we said at the beginning, you know, our goal here is more to get you to think about workflow, and we're going to give you the first steps. But the first steps of actually figuring out how Git works, we're just going to give you some resources. So here we are. So you go create a GitHub account. They're free. You add a new repository. It's very easy. GitHub has lots of help. It's very easy to figure out. It's very easy to use. And then clone it to your computer. Again, GitHub tells you how to do it. So, you know, it gives you instructions of what that means. Clone just means copy, just like, you know, cloning in GNA and whatever. Yeah, yeah, just like Valid, right? And then once you have your repository on your local computer, do your normal stuff. So all you're doing is you're deliberately making save points. Here it is. All right, time for questions. Yes, go ahead.
How are you creating a database in your workflow?
In this case, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could have code in there somewhere that's going into a page or into a widget, and it's actually not going to get into Git.
Right. Yeah. So his question was, how do we integrate a database into this workflow? And personally, I don't. However, there are certainly use cases, and there are certainly reasons that you might want to somehow include data from your database. And what I would recommend in that case is that you just create a database export, which is just a text file. Git is really great with text files. So create your database export and include that somewhere in your repository. But you know,
Not public.
well,
This is public project.
that's up to you. I recommend not public, but it's up to you. Yes.
So, what is the Git functionality that is now within WPMG? So use that to ensure that that's all.
So his question was, what's the Git functionality that's within WPMG? Okay, so basically, instead of, or I should say, in addition to being able to push your local code up to GitHub, you have another place where you can push that code. So it functions almost exactly like GitHub, except that it really is your live and development server.
So then the workflow would be kind of commit and push up to like your staging.
Yes.
Check everything out, and if that's cool, then just say
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
actually a really, I can speak specifically to the one-click kind of functionality of it, and with unpaid, solicitation or call it testimonial or whatever, but it really is like, save this out as development, push it back up, push it back, and then you swap it around.
So what we're, for those of you who might not be familiar, so what they're asking about is WP Engine, the company I work for, as a hosting company, we provide the ability for you to push up to both a staging and a production environment exactly the same way as you would push up to GitHub. And in fact, you can use the GitHub app if you would like to do that. As I mentioned in the beginning, GitHub, the app, works with not only GitHub, but other repositories as well. So, yes, and in the red shirt. Yes, go ahead.
I was just wondering what you thought about the Git app. I've used it in the command line, and I don't use the command line a lot, but I actually found it made a little more sense than the app. I don't know if you, I'm just curious if you thought that.
Yeah, so if you couldn't hear, her question was what I think about the GitHub app as compared to the command line. And frankness, I use both. The GitHub app has its strengths. It does make it easier to have, visualize your history. It makes it easier to maybe type up a fancier commit message. But you can do the exact same thing on the command line. It's not necessarily harder. On the other hand, sometimes for a larger repository especially, the GitHub app can be a bit slow. And so the command line is much faster. So I'd say the GitHub app is great, especially for learning about how Git functions. But I would definitely agree that once you kind of get into using Git, using the command line helps you to understand what's really going on, what Git is doing, how it works. So yes.
As far as like a WP engine and integration with Git, is it best practice to commit every single time you want to make changes? Like if I'm working on a website, I'm just changing a couple CSS changes. So I really want to commit that, and that's best practice. So it's like going through that.
Yeah. So his question was, once you're working with Git and WP Engine as well, is it a best practice to commit every single little change you make, or to maybe make a bunch of changes and then commit? And I'd say that kind of comes back to what I said before about, if you have to go and undo, what makes the most sense? And so in some cases, maybe it might be a dozen changes, and in some cases it might be one. So that's kind of not to just throw it back at you, but it really kind of depends on what makes the most sense.
I'm just thinking about maybe a developer coming after me and looking at all the commissions like, oh, blue.
Yeah, so as far as someone coming after you, don't worry about it. if anything, more commits are better because they have more to choose from. How are we doing on time?
I would just check. I'm sure. I mean, we're over our time, but I don't know when the next.
Okay, good.
I don't know when the next part is.
3:40. Okay, so we got 8 minutes.
Okay. All right. So at this point, we'll still be here. We understand that